Hello everyone, we are Group 1 students. Our topic is reducing inequalities. Inequality within and among countries are still cannot be ignored today. So this time, we choose two countries with many similarities, Brazil and South Africa. They are developing countries. They have similar Gini index, similar GDP per capita, and they both have a history of colonialism. We group will set forth our position in three aspects: healthcare, income, and education inequalities. Let's first welcome Ben.
Thanks for the introduction from Logan. Next, I will introduce the healthcare inequality in both countries. First, let's take a look with their policies. Brazil has used 9.5% of GDP in health, and the average health expenditure was around $1,300. In South Africa, they only use around 4% of GDP in health, and average health expenditure was around $650. The money they spend on health has a great distance, which makes the health service they provide performed differently. In Brazil, they have the unified health system, which is the largest geographically non-discriminatory government-run public healthcare system in the world. It delivers free medicine from national immunization program and popular premises. In South Africa, they have the district health system to deliver primary health care. The system ensures a safe clinical environment for people and monitor the quality of care in facility environment. In the next graph, we can see how these policies have performed. First, the physicians density in Brazil was 1.76, but in South Africa was just 0.76. We can see there is a serious lack of human resource in South Africa. And the maternal mortality ratio in Brazil was 56, but in South Africa was 300. And the 5-death rate in Brazil was 14.4, but in South Africa was 44.6. Prevalence of HIV in Brazil was 0.3%, and in South Africa was 17.3%. From this data, we can see the situation in South Africa was not very optimistic. Compared with Brazil, South Africa has a very high mortality and infection rate. The reason for this is because people in South Africa haven't taken the medical service on time. Here's a several reasons why people didn't take the service. From the graph, we can see most of the people were not able to afford the cost they need for having a health service. This has a lot to do with the country's income and their investment in health services. In this aspect, we can say Brazil has done a lot better than South Africa. Lastly, let's see their life expectancy of both countries. Although Brazil's life expectancy is way longer than South Africa, we can see both countries' data are rising over a year, so we know they are actually improving. But after all of this, in health care inequality, we think Brazil will more likely to achieve the goal at 2030. And next, Mikey will introduce the income inequality.
Thank you, Ben. I'm going to talk about the income inequality. Income inequality refers to the fact that different people earn different amounts of money. First, we can look at the Gini coefficients of Brazil and South Africa. The Gini coefficients is a statistical measure of inequalities. The Gini coefficient more close to zero, it means that more equality. As you can see on the PowerPoint, according to OECD in 2020, South Africa has a higher Gini coefficient than Brazil. Just like 2014, South Africa is 16.3% and Brazil is 52.1%. And we can see that Brazil's Gini coefficient is decreased. However, South Africa has not. In Brazil and South Africa, one of the reasons for income inequality is racial discrimination. Whites are more likely to find jobs and have a higher wages than blacks. The second reason is broader discrimination. Men are more likely to have a higher wages than women. As can be seen on the PowerPoint, in Pacific, blacks had lower wages than whites. According to Awado in 2019, black wages are 74% lower than white. In South Africa, we can see the same situation. According to StatSA in 2019, black wages is 300% lower than white. Compare with South Africa and Brazil, we can see that South Africa is more inequality than Brazil. As you can see on the PowerPoint, in Brazil, according to paper in 2016, women wages were 29% lower than men in 2015. According to IDPE in 2019, women's wages were 20.5% lower than men in 2018. We can see that in 2013 to 2018, income inequality has decreased by 8.5%. In South Africa, according to StatSA in 2019, women wages were 28% lower than men in 2018, and women wages were 16 lower than men in 2018. Then, we can see that in 2013 to 2018, income inequality has increased by 2%. Comparing Brazil and South Africa, we can see that South Africa is more inequality than Brazil. According to paper in 2016, reducing income inequality can start from raising the levels of education, family certificate programs. We can see that Brazil is improved, but South Africa has not. Then, I'm give it to us to talk about the next part.
Thank you, Mickey. Let me talk about the education. First, according to the Unicode surveys in 2015, Brazil spent 6.24% of its GDP on education. South Africa spent 5.96% of its GDP on education. In terms of percentage, their expenditures seems to be similar, but Brazil's GDP in 2015 was $18.02 trillion, and South Africa's GDP only was $317.6 billion. This means that the two countries have a large gap in education expenditure. Second, according to the Unicode's data in 2018, in Brazil, the net enrollment rate of pre-primary education is 86.9%, which means that most Brazilian children have the opportunity to attend pre-primary education. What calls for special attention is that the net pre-primary education enrollment rate in South Africa is only 17.3%, which means that most South African children don't attend pre-primary education. Third, according to the UNESCO's survey in 2018, in Brazil, the literacy rate among the population aged 15 years and older was 90.4% in 2010 and increased to 93.2% in 2018. The data shows the Brazil's literacy percentage is steadily and continuously rising. But South Africa's literacy rate dropped from 92.88% in 2010 to 87.05% in 2017. Therefore, we have the reason to believe that South Africa's education has not been improved. and the country's education inequality is more serious. Next, Logan will talk about the conclusion.
Okay, after three aspects above, we know that Brazil has better politics in healthcare than South Africa, while South Africa doesn't have enough support. Both two countries have serious income inequality, but Brazil is more likely to improve it with their social subsidies. As to the education, Brazil invests more in improving education inequality, and South Africa faces with a decline in literacy rate in recent years. Obviously, Brazil has improved these problems better in some ways, including investing more and improving relevant laws gradually. So, in conclusion, we believe that Brazil is more likely to reach the goal in 2030. Although South Africa is at a disadvantage now, it can still learn from Brazil's action and make the situation better with its fast economic growth and their hard work in reducing their racial prejudice. We also hope that every country can go hand in hand to reduce the inequalities. Last is our references. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.